Let's get started on Dianne Feinstein, who ended her unfortunately too short life earlier this morning at the age of 90.
What we know right now is that Senator Dianne Feinstein, the longest serving woman in the U.S. Senate, she has passed away. Obviously, we are still getting details and gathering information about her passing, how it occurred. We've known for a long time that Senator Feinstein has struggled with several health issues, but she has continued to serve in her capacity both as a senator and on the Senate.
Yeah, she didn't have to. She was like almost a billionaire. Her husband is like stupid rich. She didn't have to be serving the end of her life, at the end of her life, being wheeled around. That did not have to happen. Dianne Feinstein is not like the singular charismatic force that is the only person that you can elect to that position in a state that's like a purple state or whatever. Dianne Feinstein is a California senator, okay? Suck my everybody. If you have any kind of issue with the things I'm about to say about the selfishness and the audacity of these cretins who have made insane amounts of money over their entirely too long careers as they became more hardened in their perspectives and stood in the face of progress, okay? If you have any issues with any of that, if you look at her and you go, oh, that's a frail old lady, you're gonna shit on her? How dare you? All I will tell you is suck my dick, okay? She did not have your best interests at heart. She was selfish. She was a piece of shit for staying in that position for far too long, and there are plenty of examples of her demonstrating how big of a piece of she was. But this last piece of the puzzle is the absolute worst moment because it's exactly like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because not only was she a piece of shit who should not have run for re-election in a deep blue state like California, but also she was a piece of shit that was placed on the Judiciary Committee in the Senate. So she was a piece of with a big role to play, you know, where all the federal court appointments are coming through. And now, just like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who also was a piece of garbage in the exact same ways, as a matter of fact. Here's Ethan's take on it, which is really good. Dianne Feinstein should have stepped aside for the younger generation 2 decades ago. Instead, she pathetically claimed to power and obstructed progress. What happened to planting trees that you will never sit under? Her and RBG and any other geriatric piece that puts their own ego, self-interest, and desperate hold on power above progress. Pass the baton and I'll honor your legacy. Until then, just retire and get the hell out of the way. Straight up. Oh, this is a great one too. Fondly remembering my tenure as an unpaid intern in Dianne Feinstein's office when we were like, look, I'm not a doctor, but this person doesn't seem like she's in super great shape to be one of the 100 U.S. senators. Anyway, this was in 2010. It's so fucking insane. You predicted this about Dianne Feinstein? I did. A few minutes ago, someone asked if Dianne Feinstein dies before Grand Theft Auto 6, and the answer is yes. What did you guys key search Dianne Feinstein? Man, I made a lot of fucking Dianne Feinstein death predictions, but like, I mean, I've said a lot about Dianne Feinstein dying. I posted this on my Twitter. Did you know Dianne Feinstein is running for re-election in 2024? I heard about that. It's a fucking meme. I don't think Dianne Feinstein makes it to 2024. I think she will die before that. Like, she is way too fucking old. I'm sorry. Yeah, Dianne Feinstein in a similar category to fucking Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Another one of your Feinstein bangers edited by Little Bear.
The health of California Senator Dianne Feinstein, the 89-year-old Democrat, recently returned to Capitol Hill in 3-month absence due to a bout of shingles. Her office confirms that she's dealing with some serious complications.
What do you mean? She looks perfectly fine. Nothing to worry about. Look at this, dude. It's so fucked. Oh, no, dude. There's nothing to worry about. What are you guys talking about? What the fuck? You just hate to see a sexy ass woman have it all? I'm going to hell. How about the people that are propping her up with a fucking stick behind her back? What about the people that are like, no, dude, don't say anything is wrong. There's literally nothing wrong with this. Everything is fine. We can look at the list of things that Dianne Feinstein is like older than. She saw the invention of like chocolate chip cookies or some shit, right? Like toast, white bread. Like she was there when sliced bread was invented, dog. Do you understand? She's older than the fucking Golden Gate Bridge. It's not a joke. Like, this is a very real thing. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it's not even a joke. 4 U.S. senators are literally older than chocolate chip cookies. The chocolate chip cookie was invented in 1938. Okay? One of the greatest inventions of all time. Dianne Feinstein is 3 years younger than the invention of sliced bread and Scotch tape, the same age as FM radio, 2 years older than canned beer, nylon, and radar, 4 years older than the jet engine and photocopier, 5 years older than the LSD and ballpoint pens, 6 years older than helicopters. I made the same post about Chuck Grassley last year, and a bunch of right-wingers tried to pull a gotcha by saying he's 3 months younger than her. And I was like, no, you misunderstood. I do not think that anyone that age should be in office. Helicopters. My policy on this shit is always, what is your legacy? What did you do? Why did you do it? And I don't immediately go to glaze mode in the same way that like a lot of the mainstream media does, right? Because whenever someone dies, they're like, oh my God, we got to preserve their legacy and like act like they were wonderful, you know? And in most cases, if you're talking about a politician, there are very few politicians that deserve that kind of legacy preservation. And oftentimes the ones that do deserve that kind of legacy preservation don't get it. They're routinely hailed as like bloodthirsty, monstrous villains, Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, and the like, Lenin, and others. And historical figures that don't deserve that kind of legacy preservation get it, especially in the United States of America. But yeah, let's hear how the media is covering the Dianne Feinstein death, and we'll get to, you know, what the actual legacy is. And obviously I'll still keep making jokes about how I feel about Dianne Feinstein and all the times that I've correctly predicted that she will die any moment now.
Judiciary Committee, where her vote has been essential to moving forward with the Biden administration's judicial nominees over the last several years and last several months in particular. Senator Dianne Feinstein has a long legislative history and record, including the fact that she was the architect of the 1994 assault weapons ban. Fighting gun violence has been a key issue for Senator Feinstein over the course of her.
This part is correct and is like a big dub for Dianne, okay? That is actually a very good dub, a very big dub for Dianne Feinstein. As much as I personally am a assault weapons enjoyer and one who has shot many, this was good. This was smart. Of course, it expired. I think that's probably one of the first moments, like in the lead up to the assault weapons ban, was one of the first moments that the gun manufacturers realized, oh my God, we can make so much fucking money by acting like these guns will never be released to market.
Career, she was also the first woman to serve as the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and she fought even against her Democratic colleagues to release details of the enhanced interrogation techniques that were used under the Bush administration, going toe-to-toe with the Obama administration in trying to get the public more informed about what had occurred during those years in the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. So obviously, she is someone who has a long legislative history, a long career.
That part is also good. One thing that they will never mention in the mainstream media that I actually do think Dianne Feinstein was like surprisingly and shockingly good on is anti-BDS legislation. Dianne Feinstein, alongside Bernie Sanders, were openly against all of the anti-BDS legislation that was getting passed all around the country. 100%. BDS is boycott, divestment, and sanctions on the state of Israel. It is a peaceful way to try and organize and protest against the apartheid state of Israel, and it is illegal to be a supporter of it in 35 states. It is a complete and utter failure. It is directly in violation of the First Amendment, and yet it gets no fucking coverage whatsoever. And it's just like a given that we have a foreign nation and its lobbyists, its interest groups craft legislation that goes against the First Amendment. Okay, a clear-cut violation of the First Amendment.
You know, you think about her service, 31 years in the Senate, elected in 92, longest serving woman senator ever. Lauren talked about the work that she did.
Yeah, let's not make any inferences about Biden's shelf life either off of this, for the record. You know, he will be totally fine. Certainly, he also isn't looking like he's about to fucking die, you know?
Phil can speak to this too. You know, he and I often were in the halls together talking with Senator Feinstein. I mean, she really was a legend, an icon for women in politics.
Oh my God.
She is someone who, you know, was breaking ground from the beginning when she was first working in San Francisco with Harvey Milk and some of the battles over rights for gay Americans. And, you know, she is somebody who had just an incredibly storied.
Let me ask a question here. Like, why are the iconic female politicians such fucking assholes? Okay. You know, maybe we should have better iconic female politicians, which we do. There are actually good politicians out there that you could point to. You know what I mean? Ilhan Omar, AOC, Rashida Tlaib. You know what what I mean? They're out there. Cori Bush. But hey, guess what, dude? We got fucking Dianne Feinstein. She's iconic. She's the best.
She really blazed a trail at a time when there were not very many women role models in politics for others to follow.
Yeah, she was a trailblazer. She showed women that you too can be a fucking asshole, okay? You too can be just as rigid, just as anti-progress, just as shitty as the male assholes in positions of power. How fucking sick. Thank you so much. Thank you for trailblazing. Thank you for paving the goddamn way, Dianne.
Of her life, because she was grappling with those health challenges, as you know, you're seeing a little bit of on your screen now.
A little bit of health challenges, bro. She was dying. She has been on ice, trying to desperately prolong the last remaining 3% of her health bar for like 10 years, man. Get the fuck out of here.
People need to think about who the senator was. Obviously, passing away at 90, but not only was she a titan in the Senate and kind of in a class of female legislators that changed the dynamic and the face of the institution as well in its entirety. Over the course of her career, from when she was at the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, the first president of the Board of Supervisors, the reason she became mayor of San Francisco was because of the shooting death that included Harvey Milk, but also the mayor at the time, and her rise within San Francisco and to where she became such a powerful.
I like that the only fucking photos that they can use of Dianne Feinstein that don't like immediately betray the supposed ideal that they're representing, like the ideal Dianne Feinstein, who certainly wasn't dead for the past like 10 years, is from the Obama without white hair era, like from the beginning of the Obama presidency. You can't even show like second term Obama. It's like literally the only times where Dianne Feinstein like doesn't look like a decrepit carcass is like 2009.
We were sitting around and talking about women and the question of whether a woman would ever become president. Abigail Crutchfield and Rachel Smith.
People still voted for her for 30 years. Brother, what are people supposed to do? Vote for a Republican? Like, what are you, insane? The entire process is that the Democratic Party does not allow that seat to be given up. That's the issue. You can't do anything. Like, what are you supposed to do? There's no primary opposition that's like decent. You know what I mean? This article calls her an ally to the LGBT community, but then lists 100 things she did to hurt the LGBTQ community. No matter how straight-laced she seemed, Dianne Feinstein didn't care who you sleep with. Lake California's 1950s wife image, she became a pioneering advocate for the gay community. First of all, she's the mayor at that point of the gayest place in America, okay? And in spite of that, her record is like kind of wishy-washy on it. So what the fuck are we talking about here? It was a political dynamic that shaped her career more broadly. Still, Liz Feinstein, who died Thursday, is celebrated as a trailblazer for women, a historic steward for her hometown during an era of upheaval and consequential U.S. senator. Her leadership helped in usher LGBTQ citizens in America's mainstream should not be overlooked. From her time serving on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors for Harvey Milk to her battle to protect transgender service members, Dianne Feinstein has been a champion for LGBT equality and justice, an early adapter. Same could be said for Eliotto's heavily Irish and Italian Catholic police force. The city had an active gay underground since the gold rush, but local cops and the state alcohol control board agents alike aggressively enforced archaic public morality statutes well into the 70s. I would say that she was progressive 50 years ago, and then she kind of just stayed the course on those values. Like, they didn't shift too much. In a case study, the paradoxical dynamics of the independent, pragmatic, and moderate in the mainstream brand of politics Feinstein always embodied, however, she also episodically confounded, disappointed, and angered gay leaders and voters. Although she was an early champion of gay rights, Feinstein also conducted a one-woman crusade against pornography and X-rated theaters, many of them serving gay men. In the early 1970s, she incensed gay business and First Amendment advocates, while alienating the liberated and liberal young men flocking to the city that would become Milk's base when she tried to ban pornographic material presenting acts of masturbation, homosexuality, sexual intercourse, and physical contact with another person, clothed or unclothed genitals. It was one reason Feinstein and Milk did not get along. He thought her incorrigible prude, calling her the Wicked Witch of the West behind her back. Milk saw Jim Foster, Feinstein's gay ally, as an enemy. His work within the system partnerships with straight Democrats too timid for his in-your-face approach. She detested Milk's grandstanding, performative style, seeing it as too indecorous and unsuited to proper political deliberations. Once at a hearing on Milk's proposed ban on anti-gay housing discrimination, Feinstein protested that landlords would be forced to accept tenants who are into S&M, like BDSM. I want to repeat that one more time. The gay ally, Dianne Feinstein, detested Harvey Milk's grandstanding and performative style, which, by the way, why is this article, instead of just like glazing up Dianne Feinstein, this article also, weirdly enough, is like assuming the position of Dianne Feinstein and like weirdly anti-Harvey Milk. Milk? Like, what's happening there? Seeing as too indecorous and unsuited to proper political deliberations. Like, you agree with it, kind of. Once at a hearing on Milk's proposed ban on anti-gay housing discrimination. Anti-gay housing discrimination? Feinstein said it's like if landlords were forced to accept tenants who were into BDSM, okay, S&M, sadism and masochism. Though they sniped at each other throughout their brief 10 months together in office, she provided crucial support for passing Milk's landmark bill by one vote on the polarized board. After Milk's murder, friends disclosed that eerily fearing assassination, he had recorded a tape naming 3 possible successors and ruling out Jim Foster. Feinstein followed his wishes, appointing left-wing activist Harry Britt. As she prepared for the November 1979 elections for her own full term as mayor, however, Feinstein's political relations with gay voters broke down. Amid a wave of national media attention, she angered LGBTQ people with an insensitive comment in a Ladies' Home Journal interview. The right of an individual to live as he or she chooses can become offensive, she said. The gay community is going to have to face this. It's time for us to live here, respecting each other's lifestyles, but that doesn't mean imposing them on others. You know, if you're homosexual, you're imposing your homosexuality by being homosexual in public. You know, keep that shit in the fucking bedroom. Okay, I need to explain something here. When adjusted to the time that she was serving, okay, you can immediately rush to her defense and say, well, dude, what the fuck? Everyone else was literally saying cull the homosexuals, okay? So technically she's not saying that. She's just saying keep it in the bedroom. But when you look at the actual place where she was doing it, San fucking Francisco, okay, and compare her to openly gay politicians like Harvey Milk, you realize, oh, Jesus Christ, this is supposed to be the safe haven. At the time, it's like the gay capital of the planet, okay? In May that year, she stumbled in her first big crisis as mayor. Thousands of gay people and others rioted after a conservative jury found Dan White guilty of 2 counts, not of murder, but voluntary manslaughter, the equivalent of vehicular homicide. By the way, I need you to understand something here. When this kind of like political assassinations occur, the criminal justice system absolutely sides with the oppressors, with the fascist elements, okay? And that is a constant throughout American history, and that has not changed. I need you to understand that. And it's gotten maybe in some instances worse too. Like Kyle Rittenhouse, a great example of this, obviously, like what the intent and the purpose was for him to go there and shoot a bunch of fucking BLM protesters, right? To save private property that he had nothing to do with, okay? Conservatives bashed Feinstein for being too lenient with the protesters, while Britt led cries of outrage from the left, blaming her after cops invaded a gay bar at a closing time during White Night Riot and beat patrons and others milling on Castro Street, the heart of Milk's district. Anger over the cops, her magazine quote, and increasing reports of street attacks on the LGBTQ community cost her politically. She was forced into a runoff against her conservative archenemy on the board of supervisors after a gay realtor named David Scott captured 10% of the November vote in his run as a protest candidate. It starkly demonstrated that the gay people now held balance of electoral power in San Francisco. In the runoff, Feinstein apologized for her magazine comments. I don't come to you as a perfect person that knows all the answers and that doesn't make mistakes, she said at a crucial debate sponsored by the local gay Democratic Club. But I do come at you as someone who's got a heart and a concern and a very deep interest and desire to represent this community. She won Scott's endorsement and a 4-year term of her own. One more big political clash with the gay community remained. In 1982, the Board of Supervisors passed the measure authored by Britt authorizing city health and other benefits of domestic partners of unmarried public employees, which primarily affected gay people. Under heavy pressure to veto the bill from religious leaders, Feinstein agonized finally against the unanimous advice of City Hall counselors. She killed it. Once again, the Castro district bloomed with Dump Dianne posters. Worst backlash to the veto fueled a once lagging recall campaign launched by a fringe group called the White Panthers that was mad about her push for gun control. The moribund effort suddenly qualified for the ballot. However, she quickly framed the recall as a referendum on the rogue White Panthers, winning big and ensuring her easy re-election a few months later. Feinstein would later express regret for the controversial veto, but many gay political organizations did not forget and highlighted still in assessment of her record. I wonder, Politico, are you living in that era? Are you Dianne Feinstein? Did Dianne Feinstein write this article? We're not living in that time frame, you know? Like, you can't be so angry at the gay organizations. Britt, who finished the close second in the 1987 special congressional election that sent Nancy Pelosi to Washington, later recalled meeting with Feinstein about the legislation. She told me she was very sympathetic, but she didn't want to blaze any trails. Britt told me several years before his death in 2020, she said, Harry, I understand it's a personal thing, but I'm mayor of all the people. It really was a morality thing with her. This is important to understand Dianne Feinstein's trailblazing status.
Again, she in fact had told the press she wouldn't.
I got up early on November 27th, 1978. Someone yelled at me out of a bus window that the mayor had been shot, and I grabbed a taxi and got to City Hall. As I came around the corner, Dianne Feinstein was rushing past me with this look of horror on her face.
As president of the Board of Supervisors, it's my duty to make this announcement. Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
Both Harvey Milk and George Moscone, who were extraordinarily charismatic, progressive leaders, lost their lives that day, and Dianne Feinstein automatically became mayor of San Francisco.
Wonderful political career starting point, you know?
San Francisco needed. She is elected mayor for 9 years.
As a young gay kid in San Francisco, I think one of my first real memories is of hearing that she was going to meet with these gay political organizations that at that point were brand new.
For the record, this is why organizing matters, but like understand that they were being built at the time, but like it's not like they were an insignificant force in San Francisco politics, okay? So she did not do this due to her moral considerations. As a matter of fact, it was done against her better judgment or her own personal morality. It was more so that she was pushed into it. Anytime she got anti-gay pressure, she met their demands.
Actively courted our vote.
And now a real crisis for San Francisco. It was big news here this morning. The AIDS epidemic, said the headlines, is spreading so rapidly that it threatens to overwhelm San Francisco's financial ability to deal with it.
There was a lot of hateful political rhetoric. A lot of people were very happy about this pandemic. There was a bumper sticker. It said, AIDS, it's killing all the right people. Dianne, from the beginning, responded with compassion.
You know what's interesting?
This part is also obviously the cream, I think, like the funniest moment. This also is like more demonstrative of how she operates, or operated in more recent years.
About this group is I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. You come in here and you say it has to be my way or the highway.
Like, these are children. She's talking to fucking children.
Go in and share this letter.
Here, let's watch the full video.
Together, in front of Feinstein. We're asking her to vote yes on the Green New Deal.
We are trying to ask you to vote yes on the Green New Deal.
Please.
Okay, I'll tell you what. We have our own Green New Deal.
Some scientists have said that we have 12 years to turn this around.
Well, it's not going to get turned around in 10 years. What we can do,
Senator, if this doesn't get turned around in 10 years, you're looking at the faces of the people who are going to be living with these consequences.
The government is supposed to be for the people and by the people and all for the people.
You know what's interesting about this group is I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. You come in here and you say it has to be my way or the...
Yeah? Well, guess what? Those kids know one thing, okay? They know how to live and breathe and be alive, okay? You, on the other hand, don't. So, you know, that's my perspective on Dianne Feinstein being so fucking callous and so awful to a bunch of children who are like, hey, we're kind of scared about our future. Could you please do something? You're a fucking California senator. Dianne Feinstein be like, I love fossil fuels because I am a fossil fuel myself. So how could I stand against fossil fuels when I am a fossil?
The highway. I don't respond to that. I've gotten elected highway. You come in here and you say it has to be my way or the highway. I don't respond to that. I've gotten elected. I just ran. I was elected by almost 1 million vote plurality.
Yeah, remember when she got elected again? When she was already like donezo, okay? Lights were fucking out. They were blinking. This is a moment where she had clarity, which is kind of funny to think about because like a moment where she has clarity is when she's dunking on like child protesters, okay? Like so incredibly hostile for no particular reason. She's not even being like, oh, sweetie, I'll do my best. Like, she's just like, no, you're fucking dumb. Shut the fuck up, you dumbass child. Shut your stupid bitch ass up.
New details this morning about Senator Dianne Feinstein's recovery from shingles. Her office sharing the 89-year-old was also dealing with a number of previously undisclosed complications. The Senate's oldest member, Feinstein, returned to the Senate just last week after missing 91 votes in a 3-month span.
It was hard not to notice in some of her public comments that sometimes she did not seem to be as on top of things as she had been before.
It funds priorities submitted.
Yeah, just say aye.
Okay, just aye.
It's been painful for me to see the decline because I remember her as being so incisive. She read every word of every report. She wasn't a cardboard cutout propped up by some staffers. She knew what she was doing, and she knew what she was talking about.
It really has been a sort of sad and messy and to a very...
No, it's one that she deserved, like straight up. I mean, if she did not run for re-election last time around, she still would have had like a legacy that could be preserved, I think. A legacy that was not tarnished by her own audacity, by her own narcissism. It's not like she needed to fucking be in office. It's not like she was in a particularly unsafe seat and she was the only person with the political chops to keep winning that seat over and over again. It's that she wanted to continue doing this shit. Partially, I think the Democratic Party wanted her to keep being a warm ass on a seat until it turned cold, of course. Here's a really good Scott Ritter take. He's a former UN weapons inspector, former USMC intelligence officer. Scott Ritter says, I met Senator Dianne Feinstein once in the lead up to the 2003 invasion of Iraq. She had just recently been assigned to the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence in 2001. And it was in that capacity that she had a senior staffer from the committee ask me to come to Washington, D.C. to brief her on Iraqi WMDs and the allegations being made by the Bush administration that Iraq continued to possess them. We met at a secure conference room in the Capitol building. Me, the senator, and half a dozen staffers and aides. It was polite, professional affair, with the senator asking questions and taking notes. Eventually, she confronted me, said, your position is causing us some difficulty. You are making the U.S. look bad in the eyes of the world. I replied that my analysis and the underlying facts were solid, something she agreed with. I said that while I knew she couldn't reveal sensitive intelligence, this is like him saying Iraq does not have WMDs in possession as a UN weapons inspector, okay? So just understand that. That's what she's saying is like, while your analysis is sound and I believe you, you're making us look bad, okay? Oh, this was the other side, the Confederate flag situation, which of course, if you look into it, it's more complicated than simply propping up a Confederate flag. But yes, Dianne Feinstein did, as the mayor of San Francisco, propped up the Confederate flag alongside other flags as well, and they took it down. The Spartacus students, the MLs at the time, took it down in a demonstration. Richard Bradley, the famous person who did this, wearing a Union garb.
Black and white pictures would resurface 37 years later. It shows him climbing a flagpole with the end result of taking down the Confederate flag. Full disclosure, it was one of 18 flags in front of City Hall used to symbolize the different stages of American history. After Bradley took the flag down, then Mayor Dianne Feinstein ordered the Confederate flag be flown again. She eventually changed her mind. Because of what he did, at least one school board member is hinting that perhaps a school be named after him. Who is Richard Bradley? I asked on TV.
If Mr. Bradley is out there, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about what you have done here in San Francisco.
He called us.
Hi, Mr. Bradley. Thank you for joining us.
Bro, I love local news, man. It's fucking dope.
You now live in South Carolina, and you just told me that you would climb any pole again at your age if it meant taking down the Confederate flag.
Yes, I will.
And tell me about that flag. I mean, what does it represent?
The ugliness in the world that we live in.
Let me get to the point here. Should the name Dianne Feinstein be removed from that school because she ordered the flag to be replaced even after you took it down not once, but 3 times?
She certainly should have a name removed from that school. She does not represent what makes the people happy and what's good in this world we live in, or in San Francisco.
Yet the flag was there when George Moscone was mayor of San Francisco before Feinstein. He did not take it down, yet there is a school named after him, and the board is not removing his name. Bradley says Moscone's name should also be taken down.
Certainly, there's no doubt about that.
One of the board members suggested that perhaps we name a school after you, Mr. Bradley. Do you think you're worthy of having a school named after you?
I certainly did. I believe in helping the kids and having the kids have something to look up to that they can represent, and the kids will be happy.
And any words for the school board?
We have to keep students in this country we live in looking forward and looking at what represents them and what's good for America.
So there was that little saga as well. Full disclosure, like they said, it was a bunch of different flags, but I think that considering the length of the Confederacy and its impact on American history, I do not believe that it should be waved as a flag, considering that it's a flag of hatred, let alone somewhere like fucking California, okay? Someone like San Francisco. Bullshit. Let's finish off the Dianne Feinstein saga with how, when she was the mayor, when the Night Stalker Richard Ramirez was wreaking havoc in California, she publicly revealed key evidence. Though Richard Ramirez originally terrorized the greater Los Angeles area in the 80s, a new audience is now getting to see the extent of his depravity in a 4-part series, Night Stalker. Ramirez used a range of weapons to burglarize, rape, torture, and oftentimes murder his victims. After years of investigations, he was ultimately apprehended in 1985. He died from cancer in 2013 while awaiting his execution. Before he was caught, Ramirez left behind shoe prints from the same sneakers, calling cards, and other pieces of evidence at many of his crime scenes. Plus, survivors were also able to narrow down his appearance and help investigators. But there was one impediment that many think slowed down the search. It came from the then mayor of San Francisco, Dianne Feinstein. In a press conference, she jeopardized the Night Stalker investigation. While most of the crimes took place in the greater Los Angeles area, he veered from his normal zone in one notable occasion. On August of 1985, he shot and killed 66-year-old accountant Peter Pan in his San Francisco home. He assaulted and beat Peter Pan's wife, Barbara Pan. She did survive and later gave police information about the assailant's appearance. Certain aspects of the crime scene, including a drawing of a pentagram, convinced the authorities the killer was also behind many of the most gruesome crimes in Southern California. Before that was shared publicly, investigators asked the then mayor of San Francisco, Dianne Feinstein, who served from 1978 to 1988, to authorize a reward for information about the Pan intruder. While announcing a $10,000 reward at a press conference, Feinstein revealed information about the case that had never been made public before. He's someone that will go home at night and will kill. It's a very serious situation. There's a $10,000 reward for any information which can lead to his arrest and conviction, she said. Her next statement would haunt some of the people actively working on the case. Ballistics on the weapon that killed both Mr. and Mrs. Pan out on Eucalyptus over the weekend are the same ballistics on, I understand, more than a dozen murders committed in Southern California, she added. Prior to this press conference, members of the public were not aware that the murders had been linked together via shoe prints and ballistics. They also didn't know any information about the vehicle or the shoes. Detective Frank Salerno, who worked on the investigation, explained why the mayor's actions negatively impacted the case. She vomited all the really important information to the public, he recalled in Night Stalker. She gave up the fact that we had connected these cases with a shoe print with firearms evidence. The former mayor revealed aspects of the case that only the killer would have known. It therefore made it more difficult when interrogating suspects. I mean, we were pissed, absolutely livid, the detective shared about the aftermath of the mayor's news meeting. So one additional fun way that Dianne Feinstein's legacy continues is when she fucked up or at least like undermined the Night Stalker investigation. Dianne Feinstein coverage is over. That part of the broadcast is done. Let's move on. Dude, this game is sick. Oh, come on, dude. She is stacked. Like, actually. Humana. This is the most sexually charged game I've ever played on this broadcast. Oh my god. He just beat the shit out of this old lady. I can't even beat the medium difficulty. I am so cooked. How am I supposed to beat Ludwig? I want to beat you at least one time.
I'm down. I'll face you right now.
Wait, did I die?
Dang.
How is that possible? I was beating your ass.
You thought you were beating my ass.